do not tell yourself, oh my God, what am I doing? Everyone is moving on. I'm stuck in this hole and I'm not moving. No, you're moving because this is also part of the process.
Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Karishma Konnect, Konnect, and I'm super happy to be sharing this episode with y'all because I've been planning this since the time I started season 2. Now that's because, I had just finished my master's thesis and it was a highly transformative process. There's so much that you go through, but I felt like not many people talk about this. Not many people get into researchers' lives or find out what are the struggles they are going through, whereas those are many, some that you can't even imagine. And also the fact that what they are researching about is often just left in those mammoth books that people don't bother to read. And that's exactly why I got Gauri Parasher with me this month on Karishma Konnect. And I have to thank Abhisheka, who's the biker who featured on our series as well, for this opportunity because he connected me to this lovely person who shares her experience about pursuing a PhD. But even if you're not pursuing a PhD, this particular episode is going to teach you a lot of life skills. So go watch it out, and I will be there next time. Until then, Karishma Konnect, Kari Connect.
So firstly, thank you so much, Gauri, for joining me on Karishma Konnect now, as I would like to call it. I'm sort of getting used to calling it Karishma Konnect. And I would firstly like you to, sort of introduce yourself and in a nutshell, tell me about, so Gauri is a researcher for those who are watching this, and I want you to tell them what exactly is your topic, what are you doing, and the likes of it. Yeah.
And I really appreciate it because rarely do people think about the process of the research rather than its content. So for a change, I'm very happy to talk about the process than the contents of my research. So my name is Gauri Parasher. I've just completed a PhD in history from the University of Heidelberg. I am currently appointed as what I think you would call it a lecturer in Indian terms at the University of Trier in Germany. So both these universities are in Germany. And I am also, besides teaching, I'm also currently preparing a new project. So I'm a historian, and I am interested in, or rather you would call me a specialist of early modern history. So that's the period from 1500s till 1800. So 1500 till 1800, that covers roughly 3 centuries. And my PhD research was on French colonialism in India during the 18th century. So I was really looking at how the French came, how they established themselves, and how French colonial rule started in French India. Now, French India is composed of 4 to 5 territories that the French acquired along the coasts of India in the late 17th and 18th centuries. And I examined how rule developed there. I was specifically looking at the history of Pondicherry, because that was like the capital of French territories in India. And my focus, my interest actually is driven by a desire to look at how people from different places interact with each other on a daily basis, when they do not speak the same language, when they do not have the same background, with their very different dresses or are of even different color, of course. So how does communication happen, whether it's in terms of trade or rule, which I was looking at, or just diplomacy for that matter. And all these 3 dimensions are sort of interconnected. You cannot really separate them. So this is what I was looking at. And part of my dissertation is, of course, devoted to law. and rules, how rules develop within this context, and rules of government, rules about resolving disputes, what kind of laws are then used, whether it is French laws or, Indian laws, although there's no such term as Indian law, at least there wasn't at that time, and how, and the outcome of my research was, to a large extent, it's not usually just the people in the position of rule who are driving this process or who are setting down laws and rules. It's a lot of it is also the outcome of how common people use these rules, for their own purposes, and then how a regulation results from that. So this dynamic, this exchange between people of different cultures, but also people in different positions in a society, and the outcome of that and how it affects governance. One thing that I discovered was, actually, there's several things. So the one thing that I discovered was how, so we have a certain idea of, women and men's role, gender roles, and how they are viewed by law. Okay. So according to a certain law, women are supposed to do this, men are supposed to do this, or at least when there is a dispute, women have only a right to a particular share of the property, let's put it that way, or inheritance or things like that. And usually, traditionally, in every society, basically, it's never been equal. Women have always been at a disadvantage in terms of inheritance. And this is the picture that we actually have of in olden times, women's role was sort of, they were not individuals in their own right, or even individuals who could possess property. They always had to have a guardian. First, their father or their husband or their sons, usually,
Yes.
That's not just specific to India. That's all over the early modern world.
Absolutely.
It's a global phenomenon. So what I discovered was that this was not the case in the period that I'm studying. So let's say I was focusing on the late 18th century, the second half of the 18th century, and I was looking at court records. I was looking at records of disputes that over property, over inheritance, over dowry, over guardianship of underage children. So these are called like civil disputes. So I was looking at records of these disputes, and I was so surprised to find what an active role women were playing. First of all, you won't even think that they would come to court and they would fight their case. But that was not true. So I actually came across a lot of women actors. In historical terms, actors are not what you understand by actors, but people who have some kind of agency, who take an action, and it has a certain amount of repercussions. So I was seeing a lot of women litigants. First of all, their presence itself, was surprising. Secondly, the way they argued to stake a claim either in their dead husband's property or in their dead son's property, within the given constraints of law, indigenous law, let's put it that way. That was the other thing. So they were very active, and the way they were using regulations. Last thing was the way some of them even used aspects or elements of French law. So that is like a foreign, let's put it, a foreign system of law, but how they were choosing rules from there to support their argument. And one tool that they adopted was writing a will and a testament.
Having done not that great of a research, but at least done an MA thesis, I do know that the whole process is highly transformative. It takes you through a whirlwind of, sort of, be it emotions or be it, I don't know. I know you know it best, so I'm gonna ask you that, do you really agree to that statement? And if yes, then what has your experience been?
Oh my God, I mean, totally. You're absolutely right. You're not a different. You are a different person. You're not the same person as one who started the research.
Exactly.
I mean, 5 years, 7 years down the line, you're a completely different person.
Yeah.
Because you've gone through, I would say, so many ups and downs. But more than that, it's like the sudden opening up of your horizons on the one hand, and also going deeper into a subject. It's both these processes that just leave you a different person at the end of it. On the other hand, I was forced to go really then dig deep into my topic, get to know more. For a long time, I had no idea what I was doing, but it's basically, there's only one way to go. You just have to go deeper. You just have to read more, engage with your sources. And it's a different experience, but this in-depth learning, it's amazing. In the beginning, I was resistant to it because I didn't want to do it. I felt like sort of lost. But once you start doing it, and once you start discovering stuff like the one that I shared with you, then you're just hooked. Then you just want to read a bit more. What have the previous scholars said about this? But what do my sources say? So there's this constant process of comparing. So I had, in my personal experience, there were these two phases. In their own ways, they left me transformed in different ways, through this social interaction, and then through this just solitary experience, which sometimes can be very depressing. The only thing is, if you just hang on to it, then you do get somewhere.
Sometimes, as you said, there are some really depressing moments. And this is something that specifically when I thought of talking to you, I wanted to actually elaborate on this, because this is something I think not many people talk about, but it's really a thing. When you're doing sort of writing by yourself in a room, you feel so cluttered at one point. It really takes a lot out of you. And so I completely resonate to that experience that you say, because I went through a similar thing. For me as well, it was a completely new field altogether with no idea, and you're unprepared and you feel intimidated.
Absolutely, because there's so many people around you who just, who have done this, who know better than you what's to be done, where to go, what to look for. I think talking of depression, actually, I would like to talk about this, because I myself faced it. When I say depression, it's not clinical depression, let me clarify. I would just, but I'm using the term depression because
just a feeling of being really confused and low. That's what even I mean by it.
You feel like you're in a hole and there is no getting out. I often used to describe it, because in between, my dad, actually, who has been my biggest cheerleader in pursuing this, after several years, everyone starts asking, like, why aren't you done? And he always questioned me, like, what's happening, what he wanting to know, but it was difficult to explain to him, because he has not been through this experience. At the same time, he was very understanding. Like, he always questioned me to drive me on, making sure that I have not become, lazy or lethargic, but also not scolding me or anything. It was like he was tough love, but whenever he used to ask me, this is how I would describe my situation. Do you know the concept of Chakraview?
Yes, I've heard of it.
So it's a bit like this. You have entered, and then there comes a moment where you're bound to feel, okay, how do I get out of here? So, and that feeling was what I faced for more than 2 years. I would say almost 3 years. Like, you have come so far, you cannot abandon it, but you just feel it's not enough it's not finished. Your work is not finished. Okay. You cannot abandon it, but it's not finished. So, and you're running out of everything: willpower, energy, ideas, money. All of this is weighing on you. And then everyone around you who has moved on with their
lives. That's the biggest influence, I feel.
They've finished their 2-year studies, they've gotten a job, they've gotten married, they've got children, children have started talking, walking. And your life is, just stuck at that same point. It's easy to say, don't compare. Everyone has their own path, and I respect that, but it's very difficult not to, especially when you're feeling low. So all of this adds to this depression, this feeling. If I were to give any advice, let me see. I'm not in a position to, because I don't think I handled it very well. All I can say is I came out of it eventually, and I think it's really just a matter of time. You have to give yourself time. I think many of us make the mistake of adding to this pressure by repeating to ourselves, oh my God, I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time. I've already spent so much time. I don't have enough time. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's only going to, it's self-torture, thinking that way. And that I learned actually from a very good friend of mine. He was the one who actually later on, we are engaged now. So,
okay, great.
He was the one who always said, give yourself time, give yourself time. He himself is a brilliant scholar. I mean, he finished his PhD really quickly, and he's very gifted. So having him also nearby was a blessing, but at the same time, you can't help yourself, comparing yourself to this person. But that was my problem. And in no way did he ever say, he always said, just, it'll take its time. Just give it time. Don't torture yourself. Don't torture yourself. He is the only one who reminded me, who constantly tried to tell me that it'll take time. And I actually agree. Do not tell yourself, oh my God, what am I doing? Everyone is moving on. I'm stuck in this hole and I'm not moving. No, you're moving because this is also part of the process.
Yes,
this is I think maybe not everyone will relate to it, but I can bet a majority of people will have gone through this, would have faced these feelings and would have gone through this period, either for a few months, maybe a few years, but they would have faced this. They would have had this experience. And all I can say is just remind yourself, even this is part of the process. Actually, it's a very big part of the process. It strengthens you like crazy. I've come out of this entire experience feeling like, okay, I can take on anything, when I could go that down and climb up again.
That how does the process, sort of begin, and what does somebody have to do if they plan to take up a PhD?
So there are two things. You can, if you've done masters in a certain subject, it's not too difficult to enroll for a PhD for the same subject. Okay, you can, the process is you just, depending on what university, there is a certain time in the year, where you get the relevant forms, you fill them up and you submit them. But for a PhD, it's always advisable beforehand to be in touch with the professor who will then guide you, who will become your supervisor. And usually this takes place already at the master's level, because usually people continue on to do their PhD in the same university. So they are familiar with the process, they're familiar with the teachers, with the professors, who will take them on as PhD students. So this is what I have observed. Usually this is what happens, because master students then continue on at the same university. So by then they already have an idea. But without a master's, of course, it's impossible, to do a PhD. So in this case, it's relatively simple. In the other case, where you are new to a university, then of course you have to get in touch with the professors that are teaching at that department, and you already have to ensure a guide, like someone who will take you on, because even getting the admission is not enough. All your admission process has to be accompanied by this assurance from a professor that the professor is taking you on as a student. Usually, this is the process. Now, getting admission, even when you accomplish all this, that's relatively easy. What is more problematic is funding, because for 3 years or 5 years, how do you fund yourself? If you're enrolled in a full-time PhD program, you don't have time to do anything else or even work part-time, although it's possible, but which means your studies are just going to last longer. So usually you have to look for funding as well. In India, I have heard that now anyone who is enrolled in a PhD is automatically paid a stipend. And I think that's a really good thing, because this is not just studies. It's actually, by then it has become your profession. Your research is your profession, you're professional researchers. So therefore you should get paid for it. You're not students. There's a difference. And I totally support that. I think this is really great. Not many people realize this, but it is a full-time job. But in outside university, so let's say Germany, because that's where I've studied, you don't get a monthly stipend. You have to apply for funding. So every university usually has funding bodies. So there are two kinds of funding bodies. One is specific to the university. So the university will set aside a certain amount of money to fund its the brightest PhD students. Okay. Right. And as an international student, you can already inquire, either read about it on the university website or inquire at the international office that you're looking to do this. But do this after you have already made contact with the professor and your admission is more or less finalized, then they sort of go in parallel, but usually that first one has to be assured before you start looking for funding, Right. So there's one option is universities themselves. It's often not enough. I think it's not very well funded, but still it's something. So if you fund yourself partly and you get this funding partly, then it's perfectly okay. You'll manage. There's this. Then there is something research funded by the German government. So the government offers money to researchers to do their research. It's called the DFG, Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft. There, anyone who is interested in pursuing research can just forward a proposal. Okay, but I don't think they fund PhD research. They usually fund postdoc research or multi-people projects. So 3 people have gotten together, they have 3 different projects, but which are part of a larger project. So you apply for funds for the 3 together, and under that scheme, your PhD can get funded. Got it. Okay. But this is usually led by professors or researchers at the postdoc level who are working at the German university. It's not just anyone. You can be an international student, but someone who applies for you has to be part of the German academia. That's the condition. Got it. That's the second way. Third, and this is how this initiative at Heidelberg University was funded. This is called the Excellence Initiative, where German government has like millions of euros in funding to universities for mega projects. Like I think under this initiative, we were like 100 people who were employed, if I'm not mistaken. So it was really an institute. You're building an institute. So it was based at Heidelberg University, but the university did not give money. It's actually the money came from the government because the professors had gotten together. It's very competitive. So professors of different universities, they get together, they write huge proposals and then submit them to the government directly. And then the government decides which ones are the best and then releases the money to that university for this particular project.
And do you have to be published before you actually apply for this?
No, you don't have to be published. No one expects you to be published before your PhD. That being said, if you're published, of course, it will increase your chances, but you don't have to be. But what they do tell you is during your PhD, like my supervisor, she really pushed us to publish even during our PhD, because she says it just increases your chances afterwards to gain funding. Do you know what's a microfilm?
No, please go ahead.
Okay, that's great. So before the digital age arrived, you find microfilms usually in archives. Okay. And before scanners and before photographs or anything like that. So this was a way of preserving documents. It's effectively, you take a photo of the document and it's actually on a roll. It's like
the camera roll that we used to have.
Camera roll. Yes, except this is a document, and this can be exposed to light, like it's okay, but you have special readers for that. So it's a roll like this, about this thick, many hundred pages can go in it. You then fit it into the side of this machine, which has a huge screen, and then you turn it. So it goes like a film, and you'll be able to read the letters. So it's like black and white. So you turn it, and you're reading.
Taking a little bit of it off. I'm going to come back to the next question, but taking a little bit away from the academic background, how is it just staying in this place? And what is the what are things that need to be kept in mind when sort of visiting Germany, coming from purely a background of you staying there for so long?
Actually, to be honest, I went there not even knowing the language, and I felt at home. Like there was, but perhaps that had also to do with the fact that I was in Heidelberg. Heidelberg is very, very special. It's very international. It's a university town. It's a beautiful town. It's a very touristy town. I mean, I've heard that when Japanese tourists, when they visit Europe, whole Europe, half a day, they are going to come to Heidelberg, even if it is for half a day. That's like a must-see place.
So everyone should go to Heidelberg if they are there. Thank you so much, Gauri, for all of this. It's been lovely talking to you, and it's been so insightful. And I can't wait to share it.
So much. Thank you for thinking of this. Okay, let's interview researchers, not about their research, but actually their experiences about the research. That's just as important. And thank you for creating this platform where we can share this aspect of our lives.
Thank you. Means a lot to me. As someone doing this, means a lot to me. And I think it's very important to talk about it, and that's coming out of my own curiosity. So I'm glad it's coming the right way. Thank you.
My pleasure, my absolute pleasure. This was really fun.